Thanks for tuning in, everyone, to your favorite radio show, the Cherilyn Lee Health Show, here on Innerlight Radio, the healing frequency. Well, you're in for a treat today. Without further ado, your favorite radio host, Dr. Cherilyn Lee.
And thank you so much, my co-host, Belinda Foster, who is also a PR specialist. Thank you so much for being here today. Again, as we start with this wonderful, wonderful show. I'm so sorry, everyone. I hope you're still tuned in with us because we have a wonderful topic, and it's something that we use here at our particular clinic here at Nutrimet Integrated Healthcare. And we have a wonderful guest who's going to give you some very, very valuable information and a little science as to why this works well in the body. But we want to first start. Belinda, you want to introduce our guest today? Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Well, we are just thrilled and honored to have him here. He is a researcher, reporter, and technology transfer expert. Please welcome, everyone, Alan Attridge to the show. Alan, welcome.
Yes. Good morning. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
And today's topic is nature's incredible chemical pharmacy, how it can support the treatment of or prevent disease.
And it's such a great topic. Thank you so much, Alan.
You're welcome.
In relation to this type of topic, well, there's so many questions that can be presented here. What is the basics of good nutrition, would you say? And
Well, and having a balanced diet, but also a little exercise. And I think those who know it, specifically in that field, is a little exercise produces or supports our balancing of your hormones and other chemistry in your body.
Most definitely.
But getting to nutrition, we've learned a lot more about nutrition in the past 60, 70 years, and it's an ongoing research done by thousands of teams around the globe. But to also emphasize is we'll never have all the answers as to why certain nutrients or what minerals make up or chemistry makes up all the fruits and vegetables on the planet. It's been statistically proven in a study at Columbia University that there's just too many chemicals in nature, and science will never have all the answers. But as we all know, we've been eating these foods, fruits and vegetables, on a regular basis for thousands of years, and they're safe to consume, and the FDA has a list of those foods that are safe, as well as the European Union, as well as in Asia.
That's incredible. Yeah. You know, and all of us, when we shop and we go grocery shopping, there are certain foods that we have which are our quote-unquote favorites. I particularly love mushrooms, and I'm very happy to find out that we're going to be talking about the medicinal mushrooms. Why are medicinal mushrooms important?
Medicinal mushrooms have a unique collection of chemistry that we find is not just in mushrooms, but also in many fruits and vegetables. And that all came about to me about 3 years ago, meeting with genetics teams with reference to fruits and vegetables. And when we compared notes, we found that, wow, there's literally almost 2,000 or 3,000 chemicals that are in fruits and vegetables are already in mushrooms.
Yes.
And then the second part of it is the bioavailability of the chemistry in mushrooms, because the way mushrooms work chemically in the digestion of food, we find that the chemistry is very bioavailable to our bodies, to mammalian chemistry. In other words, it helps you actually make your other foods more bioavailable, but also you get more direct energy and nutrients directly from mushrooms, more than most foods on the planet.
Most definitely. And you know, with mushrooms also, there's many strands and families of mushrooms.
Yes.
So if we can, and each one of those have a different action on the body as we take them as medicinal, or basically definitely using them as medicinal mushrooms. Certain ones or different family groups will work differently on the body, and maybe we can kind of talk about that at this point too.
Well, at Cornell University, they from organizing the class and species, they have one of the largest databases on mushrooms in the United States. Not so much about all the chemistry, but there's about 140,000 species on the planet. We may only have categorized 100 or about 10% of those. And not all mushrooms are beneficial. As we know, there's some that may be poisonous because of the makeup of the chemistry.
Right.
So, and in most cities in this country and in Europe and in Asia, there's mycology or mycol clubs where people gather and they go in the forest and pick mushrooms. And it's been going on for many, many years. When I lived in Europe as a little boy, we used to go to the forest and pick mushrooms. It was there on the weekends. But science has found that certain mushrooms have more benefits than others. And as you know, and also many drugs are now being made from extracts or components of medicinal mushrooms, like penicillin.
Oh, yes. And, we had spoke about this, but, some people felt that because they were allergic to penicillin, they would have a problem with mushroom. So if you can kind of elaborate on that a little bit, too.
That was one of the first questions with people who are allergic to penicillin. Can they have mushrooms? Well, I'm not sure they can have all mushrooms, but certain mushrooms, specifically those that we have been researching, have been safe. And you say, well, why are they safe? Well, possibly it's because of the way they're grown. They're grown in a sterile environment, in a clean room. And the substrate or autoclave, that means the substrates are also sterile. And we have, not just us, but the labs we collaborate with, have been growing a specific hybrid strain in their labs for 20 to 30 years for the purposes of extraction and hopefully to develop a drug or a nutraceutical or a biologic for human consumption. But we find that there's no reaction, which is kind of puzzling, but it gets back to even these companies like Monsanto and DuPont, who do a lot of research in the area of agriculture, and we may not be in agreement with some of that, but in discussions with those scientists, they'll tell you that whenever you let nature produce food or things in agriculture, fruits and vegetables, if you let nature do its thing and man doesn't change things such as genetically modify, we find there's no side effects. Where you understand penicillin is not all natural.
Exactly.
It's 100% natural.
Mm-hmm.
And those mushrooms that have been approved as a food do not have the toxicity, and they're very beneficial to our body, from our balancing our immune system, increasing the uptake of ability to uptake more oxygen. Also, the chemistry can penetrate the blood-brain barrier, so the benefits of medicinal mushroom chemistry can get into the brain.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the same for most, with a few exceptions of several herbs.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Yes, and what most people, sometimes would think as a mushroom being a fungus, and we know that fungus and yeast cause problems. Mm. So we know that, that's not the same. So I'm going to let you kind of, dive into that a little bit more as mushrooms being a fungus.
Well, I'm going to talk about two things when we talk about fungus. You know what kombucha is, and you know about fermented foods, and all those things are wonderful, letting nature's bacteria break down food so it's more beneficial to us. But there is, as you know, certain fungus such as yeast, or we also talk about candida and things, and that can be harmful. And I want you to know all the fungus in the world compete with one another. And can you get candida from mushrooms? Well, you can if it's grown in a in the forest, or if it's grown in a greenhouse where there's no sterile environment, you're going to find that the yeast or the fungi in the air will drop on the fruit body of the fungi growing in the farm, which could be a fungi or a yeast that causes candida. So if you're going to have a mushroom, you should make sure it's a mushroom that's organic, but also grown in a sterile environment, and then there's no chance of getting candida from it because there's no other competing yeast or fungi sitting on top of the fruit body of the mushroom that wouldn't cause candida.
Right. And so that brings us to why a person should not just buy certain type of products just anywhere, because you don't know the history behind how it's been manufactured, and maybe a little kind of under the label of a nutraceutical, because there are special requirements when you start dealing with different products also. Because not all mushrooms are created equally.
Well, focusing on mushrooms, that is correct. How do you know where it's grown? The soil could have toxins. The air could be poor air content, and as well as the packaging. In the last 4 to 5 years, we find that more and more are not purchasing foods, including mushrooms, from China. Why? Because most of the time, or half the time anyways, the packaging has been contaminated. So they have a good product, they put it in a contaminated package, and by the time it gets here to the United States, it's been contaminated. That's just packaging. But the other thing, you have to worry about PCBs and other pollution in the air or the soil or the substrates. That's the food that you give mushrooms or you give plants. So yes, it's you wouldn't just buy anything. If someone says it's a mushroom, it's safe. Well, what was the food that you gave the mushroom, and was it grown in a clean area or a clean room? Then you're going to make sure that it's more beneficial to you and I when we consume it.
Yes, we've had. I've had several. Well, I love the mushrooms coming from your company, the blends, and we've had great results with patients. This is the one reason why I have you on the show, because a lot of those patients are listening to the show also. But we've had great results with the mushroom in seeing and following up with lab work and different tests with different conditions, including one being really major too is the PSAs. We've seen some really wonderful turnarounds in the PSA with the mushroom, along with diet and exercise and some other things and pulling off the sugar. So this is not the only component, but it's a major component to their treatment plan. So I utilize the mushroom on what's not just what people who have, well, here we don't like that nice C word, we just say abnormal cells. But I use it with patients with other disorders too, or whatever their doctors gave them a title as their condition. But, and have had very good results. So I'm just very pleased to have you. That's one reason why I wanted you here too, because I'm very pleased that the company, that we know that we're getting something that's number one, beneficial, and it's doing what it says it's supposed to do, and we can follow that by doing. I can follow it by doing the lab work to make sure the person is progressively healing, and not something that is just feeling good, because they do feel a lot better also. So again, I just want to thank you for your involvement all these years, Alan, of your company, because it's been really wonderful.
And you mentioned mushroom blends. What are medicinal mushroom blends made from?
Well, medicinal mushroom blends are made from different strains of mushrooms of different species, and based on research of specific species or strains of species and different research teams around the globe, they share that information. So you would say, based on this research, this species, or this hybrid strain of a species, has more benefits than another. So we should maybe add these together so we get a well-rounded beneficial chemistry for the consumer or the individual. And that's how formulas have been developed. And sometimes it's not mushrooms. It can even be mushrooms with herbs or other natural compounds. and you can find many on the internet from many different companies. What kind of makes our product unique is the story of this whole thing is I was working on an agricultural project, and I was introduced to somebody who had from the University of Taiwan that had a strain that had benefits with PSA and levels in men, lowering them or stabilizing. And after reviewing the research, I suggested further collaboration and research should be done. So over a 3-year period, we found other labs in Europe, Asia, and the United States who were having great success with strains of hybrid species or of a species that were originally in the wild, but they brought them into the lab, and then they gave those species different substrates. By giving them different substrates, that's food, they actually developed new chemistry, a little different than what's in the wild. And then over about a 20 to 30 year period between these different research centers, they found that they were getting, with some of these different strains, benefits to mammalian chemistry with animals as well as humans with a variety of different chronic diseases. Like in Tokyo, several strains were grown specifically for the purposes of nerve growth and cognitive ability. Or in Denmark, with reference to tumors and cancer, they found a turkey tail strain cultivated differently with different substrates. So they had a new strain, but they were giving it to mice and rats that were transgenically born with tumors, and the tumors would vanish or go away. And what is, since that time, though, several other teams have found out what is the mechanism and pathways. What is really causing, and what it is we find the immune system is the key. And the mushroom chemistry, the first thing it really does is it strengthens, balances, supports the balancing of the immune system. At Stockholm University and UCLA have done studies on the immune system. And if your immune system is balanced or strong, you'd be amazed at how many diseases you can prevent or stop or halt or slow down when your immune system is strong. At UCLA, if your immune system is balanced, they say if you're bipolar or you're schizophrenic, you're cured. And if you have enough T cells and a strong enough immune system, according to the Stockholm University study, is you can beat cancer. But more studies being done, but we find that mushrooms, not just mushrooms, there's a lot of foods as well, that really strengthens the immune system. And when your immune system is also balanced and strong, you find that most of the other chemistry in your body also becomes balanced. So the immune system, as we know, is in the gut, right? And it's in the body, but that's, again, getting back to what you eat and what you do with, how do you... And mushrooms also are a natural chelation that help you extract toxins. And they're high in fiber, and they're high in they have all the essential amino acids. And they have a lot of enzymes that the genetics community is excited about because they say these enzymes prevent disease, prevent genetic defects. Their suggestion is we all should take 2 to 4 grams a day to prevent having a genetic disease. So
that's wonderful. If more people knew that, we could definitely get more people involved in staying healthy and having healthier children, too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. How can you tell if you need to build your immune system?
Well, the UCLA study showed that it has to do with ratios in the blood as markers. And also, I was in a meeting with the FDA. There's about 150,000 more markers that have been shared with the FDA by different teams around the globe. And and what I mean by mark is what you can look in the blood to see if you're missing a certain piece of chemistry or a molecule or an element that can be a signal as to, do you have a specific disease, or are you prone to a disease, or just knowing that you could develop a silver bullet or a compound that could beat the disease.
not to cut you off, but a lot of times too, to keep it really simple, and I don't know if most clinics now are doing this routinely. I know it's part of my routine workup with a patient when it comes to blood is the C-reactive protein. Because the C-reactive protein is a really good inflammation marker. It's not that expensive because when you get into all the gene testing and everything else, I mean, if you start off kind of simple, even as simple as a CBC, complete blood count,
Yep.
and looking at the white blood cell, break down the white blood cells, your lymphocytes and your monocytes, and looking at all that to see if there's something kind of going on. And those numbers are really important if you look at more functional medicine, because functional medicine is telling you how that person is functioning right now instead of maybe the routine guidelines they have in the book. But you can see what's going on with the person. But basically, if your immune system is weak, you're catching colds frequently, or you catch them easily. Those are really some telltale signs that you have a very weakened immune system without even doing any lab work.
One of the things at UCLA said the ratio of lymphocyte to neutrophils should be 2-to-1 as one of the markers.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that's we're speaking of some lab testing, and a lot of our listening audience may not know, but when you go to the doctor, a CBC, which is a complete blood count, which deals with the red and white blood cells, that's something that's routinely done. And you should always I tell my patients, you should always ask for a copy of all your lab results, even if they say they're normal, so that you know what your baseline is.
Mm-hmm.
It's important that become more proactive in your own health and ask for copies. So you keep copies. I give my patients everything. Their lab results, they have a copy of everything. So they always know what's going on with their health.
Yes.
It's fantastic. And for those of you who are just tuning in, you're listening to the Cherilyn Lee Health Show. And for those of you who'd like to send in questions, you can email innerlightradio@yahoo.com or call 310-928-7733.
And our guest today is
Mr. Alan Attridge.
And I just thank you so much. We're going to have to definitely do a part 2.
Well, too, on your website, you can list our website with reference to the science. I've given you, I think, 2 different addresses, or I'll get them to you, of where this research being done. So from a researcher, from a consumer, they can find out more about the whys and the whats and the news that's going on.
Well, I just want to let you know, this show today will be posted. You can go to the CherilynLeeHealthShow.fm and go to YouTube. And the YouTube will have a banner, and it will list the information where you can definitely go to the site. So that will be listed for all of our listening audience. And if you want to listen to the show again or share it with someone, you can definitely do that. So please do, because, it's so sad right now that's why I was so busy yesterday, is because sometimes I feel like I'm the last stop when it comes to the community, or people have been everywhere and they can't figure out what is going on. But you have to treat a person as a whole person anyway, and not just dive in at the disease diagnosis per se and look at them as a person. But it's so much going on, and so many people, their immune systems are just shot. This is why I think this is one of the key products that's really good, because you don't have to just it's a powder. So you don't have to just put it in liquid. You can put it over your food and consume it as a food, because it actually is a food.
Yes.
And it definitely will strengthen the immune system. I like to make cocktails for people in my clinic. And Alan, you will probably be happy to know that a lot of times, I just go ahead and add that to their cocktail. And while they're being treated, because we do the IV vitamin C's here, they'll have a cocktail to drink. And when everything is finished, they really feel they feel really, really good.
Good. And I guess for all of us, we have to experiment with the foods that we consume and know what's maybe better for us, because we're all a little different chemically. And certain things may be more beneficial, and some things we may have an allergy to for whatever reason, which could be genetic or because of the environment.
Exactly. Now, a lot of people here there's a lot of beta-glucans on the market, and a lot of different clinics do use the beta-glucan. Would you like to discuss a little bit more? What are they?
Well, they're very important with reference to, there's many reasons why. Beta-glucan is a sugar chain molecule that's in medicinal mushrooms, or mushrooms, as well as in a few vegetables as well, and I believe a few fruits, but mostly mushrooms. And it shows that the beta-glucans, polysaccharides and polypeptides and polylipopolysaccharides, these are in mushrooms. And they're all, they're phytochemicals and antioxidants that supports your body's chemistry and modulation and regulation of a lot of your own chemistry in your body. The support of your immune system, it helps dampen inflammation. It brings your body into balance. I can go into more of the specifics, but if you go to our website or you go to some of the research, you hear about interferon and tumor necrosis factor or interleukins, or it's been proven that beta-glucans is one of the mechanisms that promotes natural killer cells, T lymphocytes and so forth. But I think the whole is better than the part from our studies and collaboration from Europe and Asia, that if you have the whole mushroom rather than have an extract of just 1 or 2 or 3 beta-glucans from that mushroom, you're going to see a far better benefit of having the whole. And that whole can be a dehydrated form or dehydrated and ground to a powder form, as we are producing. Did I answer your question there? Let's see.
Yeah, it does. I mean, there's a lot of companies out on the market with the beta-glucan, and this is why I sort of wanted to know.
It's fascinating. And we just got an email here. All right. It says, thank you so much for the show today. Can food and fungi reverse my health problems?
Well, not knowing what the health problems are is going to definitely make her, the person, whoever it is, their immune system a lot healthier. But not knowing what the health problems are, but it's not going to be any side effects. That's for sure.
Well, yeah, and the only thing from high doses of medicinal mushrooms or using the powdered form, which is more concentrate, is if it's a natural chelation or detox, that a few people could have diarrhea for 2 or 3 days, but that's a positive effect. There's no LD50, there's no sign of toxicity, so even a pregnant lady can consume the mushrooms, and if you had too much, you just have a bellyache, like eating too much of anything. I mentioned 4 to 5 grams a day is what researchers are saying is a good of a powdered form, our powdered form, in their diet. Where if you wanted to, you could buy 2 or 3 pounds at the store, but you don't know, you're not going to have the efficacy of the product in the store because it wasn't grown in a clean room in space or the proper food. Majority of the mushrooms are sold still in food service today, for grocery and food service. But you find that when that these mushrooms that have been grown in labs, where it's been sterile and clean substrate, growing medium, that you find that the chemistry is so much more beneficial to us than that you might buy you purchase in the wild or pick up in the forest or from a store.
Exactly. And then there's a blend of mushrooms that are really good for people who are diabetics, and we did kind of hit on a couple of conditions. So if a person have a medical condition, it just depends on what it is, because certain species of mushrooms help with certain conditions also, which is really good. And then there's blends.
Right, and the blend was put together specifically with collaboration of researchers based on a specific idea that this would work, and the outcomes have been, and they did work, and then they did clinical studies or did trials to determine, okay, this is the right formula for this type of health challenge. But even button mushrooms have been proven to have benefit. All the mushrooms have wonderful chemistry that's helpful.
This is so amazing that you have so much knowledge and information about mushrooms and nutrition. How is it that you got involved with researching medicinal mushrooms?
Well, I was introduced to a scientist who shared with me of a strain that came from a lab in Asia, and it showed that when they gave it to men with prostate cancer, that their PSA levels would balance, and they'd have success. And this is over 6 years ago. After reading all the empirical data and research, I suggested that we do further research. So we collaborated with other teams in Europe and Asia and the United States who are also doing research on specific fungi with reference to chronic disease and immune system. And over a 3-year period, we found some labs that were having great success with strains that they cultivated in their labs. And I was confronted by a man who had cancer in a meeting in Europe. I was in a meeting in Europe, and one of the attendees said he got a phone call from his best friend. And his best friend said, I have stage 4 lung cancer metastasized to my brain. I only have a month to live. And so he confronted me right on. He didn't know what I was doing, actually, and I shared with him. And that evening I got on the phone with the researchers in Europe, Asia, and the United States, and we collaborated. And we said, this man only has a month to live. He's already tried other drugs and chemo with no success. He doesn't have a chance to survive. Let's see what we can do. Let's try something. We have nothing to lose. So the labs all sent their hybrid strains to one lab, and we put a formula together, and we shipped it to the man. We said, take 32 grams a day and see what happens. And he called us back in 5 days and said, I have a lot more energy. And then in almost a month, 22 days, he called and says, his physician called us and said his cancer was gone.
That's a wonderful story. And let's just say the grams, let's just break that down into how many teaspoons would that be per day?
1 teaspoon is one level teaspoon is equal to 2.5 grams. Now, I want you to know, when this incident just happened, I just shared this story, we didn't expect that to occur, and we thought it was a fluke. We didn't expect this miracle. But what we find is that we gave it the same formula to other people with chronic disease, and they had similar results. But what we find is what it did is it actually balanced the immune system. And a research team in Germany determined that several of the enzymes actually disrupt the cancer cells, so the cancer cells no longer hidden by your immune system. It's looked at as a foreign body, and your immune system can see it. So now you have a strong immune system. You can see the cancer cell. You can consume it, and that's basically how it is. Your own body consumes the cancers. And all the mushrooms did, or the mushroom chemistry did, is strengthen the immune system and cause cancer cells to become, dysfunctional, So they were no longer hidden, or having that cloaking type device of being hidden from your own immune system. But these teams are continuing, as well as us, are always continually doing research to determine more of why, what, and how. But it's remarkable the outcomes we've had worldwide, because we've grown thousands of pounds of this, and we've shared it with different teaching hospitals in Europe, Asia, and the United States for beta testing. And then we commercialize it by growing them. So now we grow them in labs, and we now have it available commercially.
Yes, and because we've had wonderful results, and several of the patients who, everybody who's taken it is doing wonderful. One of my patients, they actually told her there was nothing else they can do. She had taken chemo and radiation, and she's young. She's a very young girl with 3 young children, and they told her they couldn't do anything else. And so things have totally, and this is actually a year and a half now. She's doing really good. And her doctor, she went in to set up an appointment for just a physical, and her doctor couldn't believe she was still alive.
Incredible.
And looking wonderful.
That is so encouraging.
So,
absolutely is.
Well, the new science, too, is, why is certain foods, like mushrooms or herbs or certain vegetables grown in different parts of the world, more beneficial to us than other?
Yes.
And yes, it's the soil, yes, it's the environment, but we find, how do they measure it? And one of the ways they measure is the energy field, or the frequency. And there was a Dr. Harold Saxon Burr from Yale University, going way, way back, that was going back in I think it was 1940s, or shared that, you can measure disease in your body with frequency. But you could also measure frequency or energy in the food that you eat. And that can make a difference in treating disease. And researchers have said the energy that's in this mushroom products are just off the chart. And so it's getting back to the field of physics in the food can make a difference. But researchers now determine how to make agriculture more beneficial as well. And I see in this century that hopefully within 10 to 15 years that farmers, when they grow anything, that they're going to be growing vegetables that are going to be much more helpful to us without the use of pesticides and fertilizers. And the technology is there. So that's very promising.
That is really great to know. And like I said, I've seen the benefits here at Nutrimet at the clinic here, and I'm just so happy that it's available for people, because I actually take it myself, and people keep thinking, you're treating people with the flu and the cold, and people come in with pneumonia and all kind of conditions. You're going to be ill. You better watch yourself. And I'm thinking, no, I'm fine. Because if you do something on a routine basis, you don't get sick. You're not going everything that comes past you, you're not going to catch it.
Right.
It's only when your immune system is weakened that you're going to become ill. So you should do something on a daily basis, at least 2 or 3 times a week, so you can keep your own immune system healthy, because we're already hit and inundated, as you know, Alan, by the environment. Those things we cannot change. But we really have control of what we put in our bodies and in our mouth. And we want to try to put things in our mouth that's going to sustain life and make us a lot healthier.
Well, the product that you're using, it also has all the essential amino acids and supports the activity to support more glutathione, which helps our body with reference to protection against radiation in our bone marrow, as well as the increase of more ATP, which is a communicator molecule in your body. And those have been proven in research studies. It's pretty much why people, if they take these mushrooms, heal more quickly, because there's more ATP, there's more communication, there's more stem cell proliferation, so you heal more quickly. So these are some of the other mechanisms or chemistry that here in these blends that you have there at your center.
So if we were to sum it up, because I don't know how much more time we have here, but if we were to sum everything up in a nutshell, what would you say about the medicinal mushrooms?
Well, I think the right medicinal mushrooms that you have been, that it's clean and it's grown properly, such as these are, that you probably should take a few grams a day or a teaspoon a day currently, but also look at your blood work as a baseline, so you can monitor your immune system and your body's functions. As you said earlier, functional is so important, and that will help prevent disease, not necessarily just help you fight a disease you may have now, but more to prevention.
Most definitely, yes.
Yeah, so, having just a teaspoon or two a day is very affordable. It's not going to break the bank for anybody either, and but it'll make a big difference. But you'll find that also all the other, if you have to take medications, it will help prevent the side effects, prevent the toxins from a medication as well, if you had to. So you'll see it's supportive in I guess my recommendation is we all should probably take 2 grams, 4 grams a day on a regular basis for the rest of our lives.
And for in lieu of our listening audience, if you could just say maybe that in teaspoons for them, please.
A teaspoon is 2.5 grams in one level teaspoon. 2.5 grams.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful.
So we'll list studies and things on your websites for those who need to look at it.
Right, and like I said, there will be a link. I'm going to obtain that from you, so anyone that goes to the CherilynLeeHealthShow.fm who are listening in today, and as of tomorrow, and click in YouTube, and you can hear the archived show for today. But not only that, you'll be able to see the website where you can go to get all that information, which is going to be a wonderful link there for you.
Yes, and well, that's all. And we can continue with more detail, or even testimonials and things like this in another show.
Wonderful. That's a great idea. I think it's great.
That's wonderful, and this to be able to have something as food to help our body to heal, because we know food is our medicine. We've been hearing that for years, and we know that was stated by a well-known person. Let food be your medicine. So we want to do just that and stay as healthy as we can and have a much better quality of life. That's what it's all about. We all sometimes have something going on, but it's our quality of life, and we want to have the best quality of life as possible. So I want to say that, again, thank you so much, Alan, for being here today with us. And
absolutely. Yes.
I want to thank my wonderful, talented co-host, Belinda Foster.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Also a PR specialist. Wonderful. And we're definitely going to have you back again. Thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
You want to say anything, Belinda?
I just want to say I am so excited about this interview today, and I think I want to go get some mushrooms now. I love mushrooms.
We have them right here in the clinic. We do have them right here. So just come on down.
Absolutely.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you all. It's been a pleasure. And if you have any questions, you can, through your website, you can contact me.
And thank you for your commitment to this research. I mean, this is absolutely fascinating, the information that you shared today. And I know that the listeners are enriched by all of this information. And again, we look forward to having you back on the Cherilyn Lee Health Show.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And as I always say, this is Dr. Cherilyn Lee. In closing, repeat after me, please. I am so grateful that I am a magnet for miracles.
A magnet
for miracles.
And this is why I met Alan. Can you believe that? I say this every day and I meet wonderful people.